Sometimes there aren't any monsters under our beds, no claws reaching from the dark, no eyes watching from the shadows. But the truth is far worse. The real monsters aren't hiding. They're the ones we create with our own hands in our pursuit of progress, power, and control. And once unleashed, they never go back under the bed. Somalia, 1992. 30 kilometers outside Mogadishu, a small contingent of US forces remained stationed as a reserve unit. It was the aftermath of Mogadishu's chaos, the infamous Black Hawk Down, and the American withdrawal was already in motion. Alongside the soldiers, a humanitarian group worked tirelessly in the region, trying to stitch together the frayed edges of a fragile peace. But one soldier's story would be remembered for its strangeness, even if no one took it seriously at the time. He didn't want to leave the convoy. Orders were clear: stay close, keep it simple. But when a frantic local farmer approached, gesturing toward his livestock pens, he broke protocol. "Something strange," the man said in halting English, his eyes wide. "Something not right." The soldier followed. The pen was empty except for a bird perched on a trough, its feathers fluffed against the heat. Then he saw it. A bee, small and unassuming, circling the bird in tight, deliberate arcs. At first he thought nothing of it, but then the bee struck. It wasn't random, wasn't chaotic. The bee moved with precision, darting at the bird's head, its wings, its chest. The bird flailed wildly, its cries sharp and desperate, but it couldn't escape. Within seconds, the bird fell limp, its body still twitching as the bee hovered above it triumphantly. The soldier stood frozen, his pulse quickening. Later, during the nightly debrief, he brought it up. "A bee killed a bird," he said, shaking his head. "Not just attacked. Killed it." The room went silent for a moment before his commanding officer barked a laugh. "Sounds like one of those military bar stories," he said, scribbling something on his clipboard. "Stress gets to everyone eventually. Get some rest." No one mentioned it again. Weeks later, a humanitarian worker stationed nearby reported a strange incident on a farm. A cow, acting erratically, had gored every other animal in its pen before collapsing and convulsing for hours. By the time anyone arrived, it was dead, its body bloated and discolored. The locals called it a curse. The researchers dismissed it as a freak anomaly. It wasn't. Years later, the echoes of Afgoye would resurface, not as folklore or forgotten stories, but as the foundation of something much worse. We didn't connect the dots then. By the time we did, it was already too late. The hum of the Odyssey's engines was a constant companion, filling the silence as we drifted toward Ganymede. The ship felt cramped, the kind of tight quarters that turned every glance, every word, into a potential spark for tension. We were five. 5 strangers packed into a metal tube and sent on a mission that felt less like a job and more like a test. Jack Torres, the veteran, leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed, watching everyone with the silent wariness of someone who'd seen too much. Dr. Lena Harlow, our medic, was seated at the table, picking at her pre-packaged meal with a frown, lost in thought. Sam Carter, our tech specialist, fidgeted with his tablet, his fingers twitching nervously. Then there was Mendez, the youngest of us, whose wide-eyed optimism felt out of place. And me, Mark Jones. Leader, former lieutenant, the one they were all looking at for answers I didn't have. The dining area was stark and cold, its surfaces all metal and gray. We sat around a bolted-down table, trays of unappetizing food in front of us. The silence was heavy, but not unfamiliar. Carter finally broke it, his voice cutting through like a knife. "So, anyone else feel like this whole thing is just a little too vague?" "What gave it away?" Jack said without looking up. "The classified briefing or the fact we're flying out to a moon no one's cared about in years?" Lena glanced at me before answering. Groundbreaking research, she said, her voice laced with skepticism. That's what they called it, right? A medical facility testing a cure for… what was it? Cancer, genetic disorders, the works. Groundbreaking is code for no one looking over their shoulders, Jack muttered. No oversight, no ethics committees. Mendez frowned. You think they're experimenting on people? Jack let out a short, bitter laugh. They wouldn't send us out here for a malfunctioning air conditioner. You don't move research like this to Ganymede unless you've got something to hide. All right, that's enough, I said, my tone sharp. Speculation doesn't get us anywhere. Carter leaned back in his chair. Maybe not, but it'd be nice to know what the hell we're walking into. The ship shuddered slightly as we entered Ganymede's orbit. The moon stretched out beneath us, its surface a barren, icy wasteland. Faint lines of ancient craters and ridges glinted in the distant sunlight. We're coming up on the facility, Carter said from the console, his voice tinged with nerves. On the monitor, the structure came into view. It was an industrial sprawl of metal and glass, perched on the edge of a frozen canyon. Lights flickered intermittently along its exterior, and a thin trail of vapor vented into the moon's thin atmosphere. Looks like it's still breathing, Lena said. Barely, Jack added. As we suited up in the airlock, I addressed the team. Listen up, I said, pulling my helmet into place. We land, we assess, and we gather intel. No detours, no distractions. Stay sharp and follow my lead. Am I clear? They nodded, though Carter hesitated before giving a reluctant, yeah. The door hissed open, and the artificial atmosphere of the ship gave way to the sterile, faintly metallic air of the docking bay. The facility's docking bay was cold, dark, and eerily silent. Emergency lights flickered, casting uneven shadows across the walls. Equipment lay scattered across the floor, tools, crates, a toppled gurney. Blood streaked across the metal in chaotic patterns, leading toward the exit. Jesus, Lena whispered, her voice crackling through the comms. They left in a hurry, Jack said, stepping cautiously over a broken piece of machinery. No signs of a fight, Carter added, scanning the room. But this? He gestured to the blood trails. This isn't good. Focus, I said, motioning for the team to move forward. Eyes up. The corridor beyond the docking bay was worse. It stretched long and narrow, lined with doors that led to labs and storage rooms. The smell of copper and rot clung to the air, growing stronger as we moved deeper. Jack nudged open one of the doors with his rifle. The stench hit us immediately, thick and sour. Inside, two bodies lay crumpled against the wall, their features distorted and discolored. Chemical burns, Lena said, crouching beside one of the corpses. Or something worse. Jack muttered a curse under his breath. This keeps getting better, Carter said, his voice trembling slightly. We reached a large door labeled Control Room. The glass panel was cracked, spiderweb fractures distorting the view inside. Carter, get us in, I said. He nodded, kneeling by the console and pulling out his tools. The door hissed open, revealing a room filled with broken monitors and scattered papers. One screen flickered, showing static, but another displayed something else entirely, a live feed from deep within the facility. On the monitor, a containment cell came into view. Inside, something moved, a figure hunched in the shadows, its form distorted and wrong. Mark, Carter said, his voice shaky, you might want to see this. The first thing I noticed was the sound, or rather, the lack of it. Beyond the faint hum of emergency lights, the facility was silent. Too silent. Our footsteps echoed against the walls, accompanied only by the rhythmic hiss of our breathing through the comms. Place feels abandoned, Jack muttered, his voice low but carrying the weight of unease. It should be, I said. But it's not. The corridor stretched ahead, lined with doors leading to labs and storage units. Blood smeared across the walls in erratic streaks, interrupted by deep scratches carved into the metal. "What could have done that?" Carter asked, running a gloved hand over the marks. "Something that doesn't want us here," Jack said flatly. We passed a storage room with the door hanging ajar. Inside, the air was heavier, staler. 2 bodies lay slumped against the far wall, their uniforms identifying them as facility staff. Lena crouched beside one of them, her movements deliberate. "Chemical burns. Maybe," she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "But this?" She gestured to a dark, greenish residue smeared across the floor. "This isn't normal." "What the hell were they working on?" Carter whispered, stepping back from the doorway. "Let's keep moving," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "We've got a job to do." We turned a corner, and that's when we heard it. A low, guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Jack froze, his rifle raised. "What the hell was that?" No one answered. The growl came again, louder this time, and followed by a faint scraping sound, the kind that made your skin crawl. "Mark," Lena said, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't think we're alone." I motioned for the team to press on, my grip tightening on my weapon. The sound led us to a large lab, its entrance sealed by a reinforced door. Carter worked quickly to override the lock, his breathing uneven as he muttered to himself. When the door slid open, the smell hit us first, a putrid mix of decay and rot. The lab was chaos. Overturned tables, shattered equipment, and the unmistakable streaks of blood that told a story no one wanted to hear. In the corner, it crouched. At first glance, it looked human, but the longer I stared, the more wrong it became. Its limbs were too long, its skin pale and stretched taut over jagged bones. Black veins pulsed beneath the surface, and its head twitched unnaturally as it tore into the remains of a body. "Jesus Christ," Carter whispered. The thing froze, then turned its head toward us, its milky white eyes locked onto mine, and it shrieked, a sound that burrowed into my skull and sent every instinct into overdrive. "Open fire!" I shouted. The room exploded into chaos as bullets tore through the air. The creature moved faster than anything I'd ever seen, dodging and weaving as it lunged toward us. Jack held his ground, unloading his rifle into its chest. It shrieked again, collapsing in a heap, but the damage was done. Lena was panting, her hands trembling as she lowered her weapon. What the hell was that?" "It's not human," Jack said, his voice steady but grim. "Not anymore." We regrouped in what appeared to be a monitoring station, its consoles flickering with static. Carter accessed the system, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "I've got something," he said, his voice strained. "Logs, footage. Looks like this place was running something called Project Vitalis." "Vitalis?" Lena asked. "What does that mean?" Carter didn't answer. He was staring at the screen, his face pale. "You need to hear this," he said. The log crackled to life, a man's voice cutting through the static. "This is Dr. Emmett Voss, lead researcher on Project Vitalis. We've made significant progress with the compound derived from the Somali sample. Initial trials showed remarkable cellular regeneration and increased metabolic efficiency. But there have been complications. Aggression. Cognitive degradation." The recording cut off abruptly, leaving the room in silence. "Somali sample?" Lena repeated, her brow furrowed. Carter shook his head. "I don't know. But whatever they were working on, it's why this place went dark." As we prepared to move, a sound echoed faintly through the corridor. It wasn't the growl of a mutant, but something softer. "Help me." The words were faint, but unmistakable. Lena froze. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, gripping my weapon tighter. "Mark," Jack said, his tone warning. "That's not a person." "It's coming from deeper inside," Lena said, her voice trembling. I hesitated. Against my better judgment, I motioned for the team to follow. "Stay sharp," I said, "and stay close." We moved cautiously toward the sound, the flickering lights casting long, uneven shadows. The voice came again, closer this time. "Please, help me." It was soft, weak, human, but deep down I knew it wasn't. The voice drew us deeper into the facility, its faint, pleading tone echoing off the walls. "Please, don't leave me here." The air grew colder as we moved, the flickering lights casting distorted shadows that danced and shifted with each step. The farther we went, the more the facility revealed its horrors. We passed containment cells, their reinforced glass shattered or smeared with dark, viscous fluid. One cell held the remains of something human-shaped, fused grotesquely to the wall, its chest faintly rising and falling. "What the hell?" Carter whispered, stepping back. Jack muttered, "This place should have stayed buried." We reached a larger central control room, its monitors flickering erratically. Carter moved quickly to access the system, his fingers trembling as he bypassed the locks. "Got it," he said, pulling up a log. The static-filled screen showed the gaunt face of a man wearing a lab coat, Dr. Emmett Voss. "This is Dr. Voss," the recording began, his voice strained. "Lead researcher on Project Vitalis. The compound derived from the Somali sample continues to show extraordinary potential. Enhanced strength, longevity, cellular regeneration, but at a cost." The recording flickered, showing a test subject strapped to a table. The body convulsed violently as black veins spread beneath its skin. "We thought we could control it," Voss continued, his voice breaking. "But the aggression, the degradation, it's not human anymore. None of them are." The screen cut back to Voss. He stared directly into the camera, his eyes hollow. "If you're seeing this, you need to leave. Don't try to save us. Don't try to fix this." The recording ended, leaving only silence. As we processed what we'd seen, a noise startled us, a faint shuffling, followed by labored breathing. It was coming from a storage room nearby. "Stay back," Jack said, raising his weapon as Carter opened the door. Inside, a man lay slumped against the wall, clutching an oxygen tank. His face was pale, his skin slick with sweat. "Please," he rasped, don't leave me here." We helped him out, his body trembling as he tried to stand. "Who are you?" I asked. "Dr. Kraus," he said weakly. "I worked on Vitalis. It was supposed to save lives. But we didn't understand what we were playing with." "Vitalis," Lena said. "The compound. It's a plant, isn't it?" Kraus nodded. "A plant, found in Somalia. It changes everything it touches. At first we thought it was a miracle. But it doesn't just enhance, it consumes. It takes over." "What about the voice we heard?" I asked. "Is that one of them?" His eyes widened. "No," he whispered. "That's her. Patient Zero. She's not like the others." "Why?" Lena pressed. "Because she's perfect," he said, his voice trembling. "She survived." The lights flickered, and the distant sound of growls filled the air. The mutants had found us. "They're here," Kraus said, his voice panicked. The first mutant burst through the vent above us, its elongated limbs stretching unnaturally as it lunged. We opened fire, the room erupting into chaos. Kraus tried to run, but another mutant slammed into him, dragging him into the shadows as his screams echoed. "Fall back!" I shouted, motioning for the team to retreat. We stumbled into a secure lab, barricading the door behind us. The room was sterile and cold, its walls lined with monitors displaying static. Carter accessed the terminal, pulling up files labeled Patient Number 001, Eleanor Carr. "Who is she?" Lena asked, her voice tight. "A volunteer," Carter said. "Terminal cancer. She signed up for the trials hoping for a cure. At first it worked. Her body stabilized, her strength increased. But..." He paused, his face pale as he read further. "She killed 2 researchers," he said. "Unprovoked. The logs say she smiled after the second one." The final entry showed her strapped to a machine, her face calm. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said in the video, "but I can't stop it. It's inside me now." The voice echoed again, clearer this time. "Please, help me." Lena turned to me, her face pale. "Mark, that's her. It has to be." Jack shook his head. "You've seen the logs. She's not human anymore. We need to get out of here." "We don't know that," Lena argued. "She's talking. She might have answers." The sound of claws scraping against metal grew louder, closing in on our position. "Mark," Jack said, his voice sharp, "we leave now, or we die here." I stared at the door, the voice still calling out from somewhere deeper inside. Against my better judgment, I motioned for the team to follow. "Let's move," I said, "and stay close." We followed the voice, each step feeling heavier than the last. The air grew colder, the shadows darker. "Please," the voice whispered, soft but insistent. "Don't leave me here." We didn't know it yet, but we were walking straight into the lion's den. The corridors narrowed as we followed the voice, its tone more insistent now, pleading but eerily calm. "Please, help me. Don't leave me here." The sound wrapped around us, pulling us forward. Lena quickened her pace, her grip tight on her weapon. Jack stayed close behind, his rifle raised and his jaw set. "This is a mistake," Jack muttered, his voice low enough for only me to hear. "You've read the logs. You know what she's capable of." "She's restrained," I said, my own voice unsure. "She's not a threat." "You don't believe that," he shot back. We came to a stop at a reinforced door marked Specimen Containment Unit 01. The glass panel was smeared with blood, but through it I could see faint movement inside, a shadow shifting in the dim light. Carter accessed the console, muttering curses under his breath as he worked to override the lock. "Mark, we shouldn't be doing this," Jack said louder now. "If you open that door—" "It's already done," Carter interrupted as the lock disengaged with a heavy clunk. The door slid open, revealing a vast, sterile room bathed in flickering light. And there she was. She was strapped to an imposing machine in the center of the room, her arms and legs restrained by thick metal clamps. Her body was thin but muscular, her skin pale and veined with black tendrils that pulsed faintly beneath the surface. What little hair she had left clung in patches to her scalp. Her head was lowered, but as we entered, she lifted it slowly, her green eyes locking onto mine. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft and calm, almost tender. The team froze. "Jesus," Carter whispered, taking a step back. Jack raised his rifle. "Don't let her talk. Just end it now." "Wait," I said sharply, stepping forward. "She's restrained." Jack's grip on his weapon tightened. "She's alive because she's dangerous. Look at her, Mark." "She's still talking," I argued. "Still reasoning. That's more than anything else we've seen here." Lena stepped forward cautiously, her voice trembling. Who are you?" The woman's gaze shifted to her, then back to me. "My name was Eleanor," she said. "I was a teacher once, before all this." Carter moved to a console near the back of the room, his hands shaking as he pulled up files. "There's something here," he said. The screen displayed her records. Patient number 001, Elena Carr. "She volunteered," Carter said, reading aloud. "Terminal cancer. She agreed to the trials in exchange for treatment." Jack scoffed. "Treatment? That's what they called this?" "She was the only one who survived," Carter continued. "But it says here she exhibited predatory behavior during early stages. She killed 2 scientists during an outburst." Lena turned to Elena, her voice trembling. "Is that true?" Elena's gaze didn't waver. "I wasn't myself then," she said softly. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. But the plant changes you. It's inside you." The sound of claws scraping against metal broke the moment, drawing everyone's attention to the door. The mutants had found us. "They're coming," Jack said, his rifle aimed at the entrance. "We need to move," Lena said. Elena's voice cut through the tension. "Let me help you," she said, her tone calm but insistent. "Don't listen to her," Jack snapped. "You've seen what she is." "She's restrained," Lena argued. "For now," Jack growled. The pounding on the door grew louder, and a screech echoed through the corridor. "Mark," Lena said, turning to me. "What do we do?" I hesitated, my mind racing. The mutants were seconds away from breaking through, and we were out of time. Against my better judgment, I moved to the machine. "What the hell are you doing?" Jack shouted. "She can help us," I said, ignoring him as I began releasing the restraints. "You don't know that." "I don't need to," I said. The final restraint clicked open, and Elena stood slowly, stretching her limbs as if testing her freedom. "Thank you," she said softly, her green eyes locking onto mine. Then she moved. Faster than I could react, her hand wrapped around my throat, lifting me off the ground effortlessly. The others aimed their weapons at her, but she tilted her head, her expression calm. "If you shoot," she said, "he dies." The pounding on the door grew louder, the metal buckling under the weight of the mutants outside. Elena backed toward a loose panel in the wall, dragging me with her. "Mark!" Lena shouted, her voice breaking. Elena paused, her gaze sweeping over the team. "You shouldn't have come here," she said simply. Then, with a final chilling smile, she disappeared into the shadows with me in tow. The team was left frozen, the sound of the mutants breaking through the door, snapping them back into action. "Let's go!" Jack shouted, pulling Lena toward the exit as Carter scrambled after them. The mutants surged into the room, and the team was forced to flee, their shouts and gunfire fading into the distance. The facility roared with chaos as the mutants poured through the breached door. The air filled with their guttural growls and the sharp crack of gunfire. Every shot seemed to echo endlessly, masking the team's panicked shouts. "Move!" Jack barked, unloading his rifle into the nearest creature. Its body jerked violently before collapsing, only for 2 more to take its place. Lena grabbed Carter, pulling him away from a mutant that had nearly cornered him. "We can't hold this," she screamed. "We have to go now," Jack shouted, his voice cutting through the madness. But as they pushed toward the escape route, the weight of what had just happened pressed on them like a second enemy. Mark was gone. The team fought their way through the corridors, every turn bringing more chaos. The facility's flickering emergency lights illuminated fleeting glimpses of their attackers, grotesque, distorted forms moving faster than they should. Carter tripped over a fallen console, his tablet clattering to the floor. He scrambled to retrieve it, panting heavily. "We're leaving him? We're just leaving him?" Jack didn't stop firing as he yelled back. "What do you want to do? Go after her? You saw what she did. She's not human anymore." "He's still alive!" Lena snapped. "We don't even know what she wants with him." She doesn't want him alive, Jack growled. She wants him changed. They found a temporary safe spot in a storage room, barricading the door with what they could find. Lena paced furiously while Carter slumped against a wall, his face pale. "We can't just leave him," Lena said, her voice shaking with anger. "He's one of us." "And if we go back?" Jack shot back. "She'll kill us, or worse. Did you see how fast she moved? How strong she was?" He paused, his voice grim. "We'd be walking into a death sentence." Carter hesitated, then said, "But what if we don't go back? What if she does something to him? We know she's not like the others. What if she turns him into one of them?" Lena stopped pacing, staring at Jack. "We can't let that happen. If there's even a chance we can stop it." Jack cut her off, his voice cold. "We're not stopping anything. We're surviving. Mark knew what he was doing when he freed her. He made his choice. Now we have to make ours." "If you want to go after him," Jack said finally, pointing at Lena, "then go. But don't expect the rest of us to die for your bad call." Lena opened her mouth to argue, but stopped when the sound of claws scraping against metal grew louder outside their barricade. The mutants were closing in again. "We're out of time," Jack said. "We either move or we die here." Lena hesitated, then grabbed her weapon. "This isn't over," she muttered. "It already is," Jack replied. They fought their way through the last stretch of the facility, their ammunition running low and their bodies exhausted. Every hallway seemed endless, every turn a new nightmare. Carter was nearly pulled into a vent by a mutant, but was saved by Lena, who emptied the last of her rifle's magazine to free him. As they reached the docking bay, the sounds of the mutants chasing them grew fainter. The emergency lights flickered erratically, casting eerie shadows over the wreckage. "Get the ship online!" Jack barked at Carter, who rushed to the controls. Lena hesitated, glancing back toward the facility's darkened corridors. "We're really leaving him." Jack didn't look at her as he said, "We don't have a choice." The Odyssey roared to life as the docking clamps disengaged. Carter frantically worked the controls, his fingers trembling. As the ship pulled away, Lena sat silently, staring out the viewport at the collapsing facility below. The lights inside the facility flickered one last time before the structure went dark, swallowed by the shadows of Ganymede's desolate landscape. "Do you think he's still alive?" Carter asked quietly. Jack didn't answer, and Lena turned away from the window. The silence in the ship was deafening. The air was thick, damp, and suffocating. Every breath felt like inhaling rust. I opened my eyes slowly, the flickering red light casting faint, broken shadows across the room. My body was heavy, my limbs unresponsive. I tried to move, but my muscles refused to obey. The first thing I saw was her. She stood across the room, hunched slightly, her body convulsing in irregular spasms. Her form was more distorted now, longer, leaner, her skin almost translucent with black veins webbing across her chest and limbs. She looked human, but only barely. "Elena?" I rasped, my voice barely audible. She turned slowly, her green eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Elena is gone," she said, her voice guttural but calm. As my vision cleared, I realized we weren't alone. Figures stood along the edges of the room, their bodies stiff and motionless. At first I thought they were statues, but then one of them moved, a slight, unnatural twitch of the head. They were people, or what was left of them. Their eyes were vacant, their faces slack, and their movements eerily synchronized. "Elena," I said again, my voice trembling. "What have you done?" She stepped closer, her movements fluid yet predatory. "You see them, Mark?" she said, gesturing to the figures. "The plant has a way of opening minds, of showing them their purpose." My pulse quickened as the weight of her words sank in. These people weren't just standing there. They were waiting. Controlled. "You're strong, Mark," she continued, her voice soft but laced with something primal. "Stronger than any of them were." I tried to sit up, but my body was weak, pinned by some unseen force. She knelt beside me, her pale, clawed fingers brushing against my face. "That's why I chose you," she said, her green eyes locking onto mine. "You'll help me. Together, we'll create something better." "Better?" I choked out. "What are you talking about?" Her smile widened, revealing jagged teeth. "I will mate with you, Mark," she said simply, her voice dripping with certainty. "Humans will no longer be the dominant species." I wanted to scream, to fight, but my body betrayed me. Her words settled into my chest like ice, chilling me to the core. "You'll see," she whispered, leaning closer. "This is evolution." She rose, towering over me now, her shadow swallowing the faint red light. Around the room, the figures began to shift, their heads twitching in unison as they turned toward me. "Don't," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Her smile widened. "Don't worry, Mark," she said, her tone almost tender. "You'll thank me." The lights flickered once, then went out. The last thing I saw was her face, inches from mine, her eyes glowing in the dark. And then, nothing.